Bernard wiped down the marble counter in the executive washroom one last time before his shift ended. His shoulders ached and his knees complained with every movement, but he never missed a day. At 58 years old, he had been cleaning offices for 12 years now, ever since his wife passed. The late shift paid a little extra, and that helped with his daughter Emma's college tuition. She was his whole world, and every sacrifice felt worth it when she called home excited about her studies. Tonight, the 40th floor was nearly empty, as usual, with just a few executives working late in their glass offices. Bernard pushed his cart down the hallway, humming an old tune his wife used to love. That's when he heard it. A strange gasping sound coming from the corner office. He knocked gently, but heard only labored breathing from inside. Something told him not to wait. The door swung open, and he saw her. A woman in an elegant cream suit collapsed on the floor, clutching her chest with terror in her eyes. Her face was pale, and her lips were turning blue. Bernard's military training from 30 years ago kicked in immediately. He dropped to his knees beside her and checked for breathing. She was conscious but fading fast. An allergic reaction, he realized, seeing the swelling in her throat. Her handbag had spilled across the floor, and he spotted an EpiPen rolling near the desk. But her airway was closing too quickly. There was no time. He had seen this once before in the service, when a fellow soldier went into shock. The medic had done something desperate to keep air flowing until help arrived. Bernard tilted her head back gently and without hesitation pressed his lips to hers. He breathed slowly and steadily, forcing oxygen into her lungs. Once, twice, 3 times. Her chest rose and fell with each breath he gave her. Color started returning to her face. He grabbed the EpiPen and administered it into her thigh just as the paramedics burst through the door. Someone must have called 911. The woman's eyes fluttered open and focused on his face with confusion and gratitude. Then everything became chaos. The paramedics took over, and Bernard stepped back into the shadows where janitors belong. He gathered his cart and slipped away before anyone could ask questions. He didn't even know her name. 3 days later, Bernard was called into the building manager's office. His heart sank. Had he done something wrong? Was he being fired for entering an executive's office? Instead, he found himself face to face with her again. Victoria Ashford, CEO of Ashford Global Industries, the woman whose life he had saved. She stood when he entered, and Bernard noticed her eyes were kind despite the power she radiated. She was probably in her early 50s with blonde hair and a presence that filled a room. "Bernard," she said, reading his name tag. "I've been looking for you." He shifted uncomfortably in his work uniform, suddenly aware of how different their worlds were. "I wanted to thank you properly," she continued. "You saved my life and then disappeared before I could even learn your name." "I was just doing what anyone would do, ma'am," he said quietly. "No," she said firmly. Not anyone would have known what to do or had the courage to act so quickly. She explained that she had developed a sudden severe allergy, and her throat had closed within seconds. Without his intervention, she would have died before the paramedics arrived. Victoria insisted on taking him to lunch. Bernard tried to decline, but she had a determined look that reminded him of his own daughter. They went to a small diner near the building. Nothing fancy. Victoria seemed relieved to be somewhere simple away from the corporate world. Over coffee and sandwiches they talked. Really talked. Bernard found himself sharing stories about Emma and how proud he was of her studying to become a teacher. Victoria's eyes grew misty when he mentioned his late wife, Sarah, and how he still missed her laugh. She told him about her own loneliness, how building an empire had cost her 2 marriages and precious time with her grown son, who barely spoke to her now. "I have everything," she said, staring into her cup, "and somehow nothing that matters." Bernard understood loneliness. It had been his companion for 12 long years. Over the following weeks, Victoria kept finding reasons to stop by the 40th floor in the evenings. She would bring coffee, and they would talk while Bernard worked. She asked about his life with genuine interest. He made her laugh with stories about Emma's childhood adventures. Victoria started changing. She smiled more, laughed easier. The Ice Queen reputation she had at the office began to thaw. Her employees noticed but didn't understand why. Then one evening, Victoria arrived looking shaken. Her son had called. He needed help. Addiction had taken hold of his life, and he was finally ready to accept treatment. "I don't know how to help him," she admitted with tears streaming down her face. "I built companies, but I couldn't build a relationship with my own child." Bernard sat beside her on the office couch and let her cry on his shoulder. "It's not too late," he said gently. "Love doesn't have an expiration date, and neither does being a parent." He told her about the dark year after Sarah died, when Emma had needed him most. How he had been so lost in grief. He almost missed seeing his daughter's pain. "We found our way back to each other," he said. "You and your son can too, but it takes showing up even when it's hard." Victoria looked at him with something deeper than gratitude. Over the next months, Victoria fought for her son's recovery with the same determination she brought to business. And Bernard was there, supporting her through the hard days, celebrating the small victories. Emma came home for winter break and met Victoria at their small apartment. The two women hit it off immediately. Emma whispered to her father later, "She makes you smile again, Dad, like you used to with Mom." Bernard hadn't realized it was true until Emma said it out loud. On Christmas Eve, Victoria invited Bernard and Emma to her penthouse. Her son Marcus was there too, 30 days sober and working hard on his recovery. They shared a simple meal that Victoria had cooked herself. It was slightly burned but perfect. As they laughed around the table, Bernard caught Victoria's eye. She reached across and took his hand. "You gave me back my life twice," she said softly, once in that office, and again by showing me what really matters. "You did the same for me," Bernard replied. "I was just going through motions until you reminded me that living and existing aren't the same thing." Emma and Marcus exchanged knowing glances. Sometimes love arrives when you stop looking for it. Sometimes it comes from the most unexpected places. Sometimes a janitor and a billionaire can find common ground in the simple truth that everyone needs someone who sees them, not their job or their bank account, just them. 6 months later, Bernard accepted a position as Victoria's personal assistant, not because she pitied him, but because she valued his wisdom and steadiness. Emma got her teaching degree. Marcus celebrated 1 year of sobriety. And Bernard and Victoria built something real, something that started with a desperate kiss to save a life, and grew into a second chance neither of them expected. Love doesn't care about corner offices or cleaning carts. It only cares about two hearts brave enough to be vulnerable, brave enough to try again. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment below about your own second chances in life, because it's never too late to begin again.